Right, boys, let's talk a bit about tactics then. And Stu, let's have your opinion on where, if you were Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and you're far more handsome, you've got less hair.
I wouldn't say about that.
What would you do with Cristiano? With Gab, Gab has this theory that Cristiano has to play in a front two. That's where he played 80%, although Oggy saw him with Portugal on his own up front, so he can still do that, of course. But Gab has this idea that to get the best out of Cristiano, you have to play two up front. He has to play with the Morata or with the Dybala like he did at Juventus.
Yeah, I would
agree.
To a certain degree, I would say I can understand why Gab's saying it. But he's not somebody that combines with other players. Even when he had Higuain playing up front with him, Higuain was always looking for Ronaldo. Ronaldo never looked for Higuain. Yeah. Dybala and Ronaldo never played little 1-2s with each other. It's not like when you see Inter last season and Lukaku and Martinez are playing with each other all the time. Ronaldo doesn't want to join in with anybody else. He wants to be the individual. And I know Oggy doesn't agree with me, but I would play him as the centre forward, and I'd play with two wide players that tuck in field from whether it be Sancho and Greenwood, Martial and Sancho, whoever it may be. And then I'd play three central midfield players. Pogba on the left, I'd play Fernandes on the right, and I'd play McTominay as the holding midfield player, and then a back four with the full-backs, particularly down the left-hand side, getting forward to get crosses in. And that would be how I would play him, because his main attribute now is his aerial ability. Getting on the end of cross. He's not going to run past anybody with the ball. If he goes out wide, he's not going to beat anybody. He'll come inside on his right foot and try and shoot. But his main advantage or his main attribute is winning balls in the air and being clever around the box to buy himself that little bit of space to get shots away. So I would play him up front.
Okay. Oggy?
Yeah, well, I do disagree with Stu on that, because I don't think the United can play with the two. I just don't think it's feasible. I think a narrow front three is probably the best with Ronaldo on the left, and so he can cut inside and he can arrive at the far post for his headers. But if you're playing Pogba in left midfield and Ronaldo left front, I do worry for Luke Shaw's work rate. I think he'd be exhausted.
Overrun,
But I mean, he did play as a lone striker against Ireland in that game last week, and he was very, limited. I thought. I think Shane Duffy were controlling quite well. He had his back to goal. He wasn't the same player. So, with all due respect to Shane Duffy, if Shane Duffy can handle Cristiano Ronaldo, I'm sure better defenders than Duffy can. So I think that would be a concern playing him through the middle. I don't think you can play him out on the right anymore, because he can't go past a man. And if he's putting the ball into the area with a cross, the best header of the ball, as Stu says, is Ronaldo. So he can't cross for himself. So I think he will be best in that kind of narrow corridor on the edge of the penalty area on the left-hand side cutting in. That would obviously at some point have an impact on Marcus Rashford, because that's his favourite position. In the Ireland game, he also started to drop deep as a number 10, which is a very limited thing, but when he starts looking for the ball, he gets frustrated, and that would automatically cut across Bruno Fernandes' position. So, like we were saying before, there are issues that need to be addressed, because Ronaldo, for me, is just the finisher. He's the finishing end to the move. It doesn't play 1-2s like Stewart. He doesn't work people in. He's just there to get his head on the ball, his foot on the ball to put it in the back of the net. And I think that's what fans will have to get used to, that he will offer very little outside the penalty area. But when he gets in it, he'll score more goals than anybody else, because he's deadly.
And as we saw against Azerbaijan, you need crosses and good ones, because against Azerbaijan, it took them a long time to put a decent cross in, and then he scored two headers when finally the crosses came in. Aaron Wan-Bissaka cannot cross the ball, I think we all agree, unfortunately for him. There's a lot of things that he can do well, but not that one. So then you rely heavily on Luke Shaw, because even Jadon Sancho is not David Beckham. That's not the kind of player that he is to whip those crosses in. So it's heavily relying on Luke Shaw to put those balls, or I guess Paul Pogba maybe, or Bruno Fernandes. But they will really have to find the right way.
When you watch Ronaldo and his movement in the box and finding that bit of space and the attack still, crosses don't always have to come from really wide. They can come, you talked about Bruno Fernandes, they can come from an inside right position.
That's true.
Man City play a lot of them, they just bend balls in.
Yeah.
And he's great attacking him. He'll get across the front of defenders, he'll pull off the back of defenders and head them in as well. So I don't think it has to be completely the wide players that get the cross in.
That's true.
It can be the sort of inside right position, inside left position with those little diagonal balls. He's still very good at hitting balls through defenders as well. You're going to see him, we think there's no way he's going to get a shot away, and suddenly it goes through a defender and goes in the back of the net. So they're his two major attributes. They've got to get the best out of him. The problem that Solskjaer will have, he can tell Ronaldo to go and play this role or that role. Ronaldo won't stick to it.
Do you think? So that was my next topic, because, and for both of you, we saw those photos of him and Solskjaer talking and all of that. And I don't think we know, Oggy, what Solskjaer told him or what they discussed, whatever. I guess it was a bit of, this is what we do, this is the situation now. But if you're Cristiano, do you listen and you go, for now, put me wherever you want and I will adapt. This is a new team. You've been here for a while now. The team is used to you and playing a certain way. Or do you say to him, listen, I need to play there, and if the cross arrives or if you build a team around me, I'm going to score?
Yeah, I think that's when Andrea Pirlo took the job at Juventus, people asked me, how's he going to do? I said, well, his biggest problem will be Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Everyone said, what do you mean? He's going to score all the goals. I said, because he won't stick to any position or any game plan that Andrea Pirlo has in his mind. And that was the case. And you can say, I think his best position is playing up front where he's going to head balls in. But he doesn't always stay there. In the big games last season, when he wasn't getting the better of the centre-halves, he started to go deep. And Oggy just said he started to go wide. He started to go to the right-hand side. So now he's not affecting the game. And other players are thinking, well, I've now got to make runs into the box because Ronaldo's not doing the job he's in the team to do. Yeah. And that's the problem Andrea Pirlo had. Hopefully, Solskjaer doesn't have the same problem.
Okay, do you think it's more a case of Cristiano right now is saying, play me wherever you want, I will adapt, I will do this, I will do that? Or more a case of Solskjaer knows, like Stewart described now, that he's almost a player on his own kind of thing, and you play him there and you make sure that the people around him and the system around him works for him?
Yeah, I think it's the latter. I don't think Ronaldo will tailor his game to any coach's tactical plan. I think it is what Ronaldo wants, Ronaldo does, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a good thing if it works, but I don't think he will. If Solskjaer asks him to do a particular job, I don't think he'll do it. I think he might do it for 5 minutes and then think, nah, forget this, I'll just do what I normally do. I don't think any coach since the early days of his time at United has actually had a kind of a grip of Ronaldo in terms of what he does. Throughout his time at Real Madrid, he just did what he wanted. He did it very well. Because you make allowances for players that do that. If they score so many goals and make such a difference and get the big goals and change games, you do basically accept that you have to just let them do their thing. I've been told this many times by people who played with him in the first time at United when, Wayne Rooney's game was compromised to a great extent by Ronaldo. Rooney basically sacrificed his best years at United to make sure that they got the best out of Ronaldo. Rooney
Benzema as well.
But Rooney might look back and think, did I really give the best of my career? But look at all the trophies that Rooney won playing with Ronaldo. So it's one of those situations where, for the greater good, you sacrifice yourself. But whether he now gives the same return on players sacrifice themselves, we'll have to wait and see, because he's 37 in February, and while he is still a remarkable athlete, time will catch up with him at some point, and maybe it's already started. And I think the one thing that people always get excited in the Premier League about, foreign players coming in, foreign strikers particularly, what a great... Premier League defenders, no matter who they play for, are very quick and very good at learning how to deal with these great players. The coaches, the defenders, they all find a way to deal with these players. Aguero didn't score 30 goals a year for 10 years. They worked out a way to deal with Aguero. They'll find a way to deal with Ronaldo, and I think it'll be easy to deal with Ronaldo now because they will quickly discover that he is quite limited in what he does, but what he does very well.
Yeah, I think it would be amazing. But again, we go back to Solskjaer and the pressure that he's under to find the right formula and the right formation. Whether Ronaldo starts a bit on the left or in the front two, you know how much I would love a diamond midfield with Bruno as a 10 and then Ronaldo and someone else up front. But I agree with you too. I don't think that will happen. Who in the current squad at United, the strikers, so it's really Greenwood, Martial or Cavani, do you think complements Cristiano the most? We saw the link-up play of Greenwood and Bruno Fernandes in the game against Leeds, for example. It was sensational, the way Greenwood can drop and then you can run into the space in behind him. I guess that could work. Cavani, you would think, is so unselfish that would work with any other strikers up front with him, including Cristiano. And Martial, just to finish, played in a front two with France on Tuesday night with Benzema and did really well just because his movement is good. Okay, he can always do better, but the movement is good. He's quite an intelligent guy. He knows where to be. His awareness, I think, tactically is pretty good. So Martial could be there and could, I think, help Cristiano as well. Who do you think of those three would be the best?
But what I was saying was I would play with the front three. I think if you played with the front three, there would be that rotation. When Ronaldo wanted to drift out to the left, then the player who was playing on the left-hand side maybe Rashford in times to come when he's fully fit. It could be Greenwood. Then they fill into the centre-forward position.
Okay.
And Chelsea did it brilliantly under Antonio Conte, because Antonio Conte always wanted to play with the front two, but he realised with Diego Costa up front, and he had Hazard on one side, he had Pedro on the other, and they almost became a front three that linked up with each other and made the right sort of runs. When Diego Costa went longer, Hazard came in field and tried to combine with him. So I think that's what I would do. And I would say Greenwood and Sancho would be the ideal combination with Ronaldo to start with.
Okay, do you think if we follow your tactics and he plays a bit more on the left with a centre forward, who do you think would be the best complement of him?
I think, and considering the age of the two, I don't think it's feasible long term. I think Cavani, because Cavani, as you say, is unselfish, he's experienced, he holds the ball up, he moves it around well. I mean, this is a bit of a throwback now, and this is probably going back longer than we should do for our audience, but in many ways it reminds me of the Mark Hughes Cantona thing. I think Cavani and Ronaldo could be a similar kind of impact, because Hughes and Cavani have very similar games. They'll play with the back to God, they can hold the ball up, they're unselfish, they'll bring players in, they'll allow a more talented teammate, shall we say, roam around a little bit. But I don't think Solskjaer and United can plan with a Cavani-Ronaldo front partnership, because it's just, the age means that it won't be a long term.
And the other thing, you've just spent a lot of money on Sancho to play out wide. So if you play with a front two and a diamond in midfield, Sancho doesn't get a look in.
No,
so they're the problems you've got.
So
Solskjaer's got to find a solution.
Definitely.
He's now got almost too many players in those front areas to pick.
Yeah. Because you don't want Ronaldo. I mean, Greenwood had started the season so well. I mean, he's been United's best player, really. That Cristiano arriving, what does that mean for Mason Greenwood?
Well, I mean, long term, I don't think it has as much of an impact. I just think what it means for Greenwood is that he becomes maybe an impact sub for a while. At the moment, obviously, Rashford isn't fit. Sancho isn't playing particularly well. So I think Greenwood will probably get in. Martial, I mean, his future's obviously much in doubt. I think he's very much number 6. But I think Greenwood will be okay for now. But I think when they're all fit, Solskjaer's going to have a big problem. I think you can have too many options. And if you have too many options at times, you get confused. And I've seen this a lot with Solskjaer. He tends to favour players, and you knew that Dan James was always going to be taken off, that Juan Mata was always going to be taken off in certain games. I think he's going to get to the point where he'll have favourites up front, and it will upset some of the players around that don't get the opportunities. So I think right now he's okay because of the situation he has. But give it a month or two, and I think you're going to have a few problems with, 4 or 5, 6 players wanting to play.
But on the other hand, the impact that Cristiano can have on this squad, and especially the younger players, and we saw it a bit with Cavani when he arrived last summer. And
there's two effects. Ronaldo, if he scores goals and plays well, and everybody loves him, and the crowd are loving him, and Solskjaer's loving him, will have a great impact on the rest of the team and the rest of the players. If he comes and plays every week, doesn't run around, doesn't score goals, then other players will start looking at him and saying, well, we're doing all the hard work, we're not getting in the team, and you keep playing him every week, who's not doing anything for us. Yeah. That's the problem Solskjaer's going to have, because he is 36 and he won't play at his best every week, and he's not going to run around chasing after things. He's not going to try and run in behind. He's not going to get on the ball and run past people with it. So they're the problems that Solskjaer's got to solve.
Oggy, I start with you. What's the United lineup at 3 o'clock on Saturday?
Well, I mean, that's fairly easy. I think De Gea plays. Obviously, De Gea, so it's Shaw. You'll have Maguire, Varane, Wan-Bissaka. Big issue we have to address is whether Fred can play, whether he's available, because obviously we know that the Brazilian players made. So
right now he's not available.
Well, I mean, there may be an appeal. I think the Premier League clubs are trying to appeal it. I don't think they'll be successful, but we have to kind of add that caveat that he might be allowed to play. I think that in many ways helps United. I think if you can play Matic there, I think it helps Pogba's game, because
definitely
sometimes playing with Fred is like playing with a stick of dynamite. I think Pogba realises that at times as well. I think he spends more time worrying about what Fred's going to do than what he can do. So
I agree.
I think Matic and Pogba and Fernandes, and then the problems start. I think Ronaldo plays. I think Cavani, having had 2 full weeks of training at United, will play, and I think they'll go with Greenwood, because Sancho didn't play for England, so that gives Solskjaer a little excuse that he's not fully fit and whatever. Rashford isn't fit, and Martial, I don't think Martial starts any of these games if any of the other 3 players are fit. So for me, the front 3 will be Cavani, Ronaldo, and Greenwood.
Fair enough.
And I'm going to say exactly the same. I think that's exactly how.
Oh, so once you agree, that's good.
Solskjaer will go with that side. I think the problem will be that if Ronaldo plays on the left-hand side, as Oggie's saying, or left-hand side of a front three, as it happened for Matuidi at Juventus, Matuidi had to close the full-back down, he had to get back into midfield, he had to make forward runs because Ronaldo didn't do it. So Pogba could be in for a very difficult afternoon.
And Pogba is no Matuidi when it comes down to those kind of efforts. Oggie, when we were preparing for the show, you also mentioned the Cantona comeback. So very different comeback, of course, after the suspension for the incident at Selhurst Park against Crystal Palace when he was playing for United, but still a long time without him. And then you were at that game when he came back against Liverpool, and you're feeling that the excitement is quite similar in the sense that it was the Cantona show. That's all people came to see, and it'll be a bit similar on Saturday.
Yeah, I feel sorry for Steve Bruce because Steve Bruce was on the same side as Cantona that time, so he knows the positive effect that it can have on an iconic hero. But now he's on the receiving end with Newcastle. But it was almost like a friendly atmosphere because obviously Cantona was a great player, iconic figure in the eyes of the fans, number 7, been away for 9 months, and he came back, and it was the anticipation that there was probably similar to what it is now. It was a crazy day, and obviously Cantona played up to the script, scored a penalty late on to, steal the show. And I think Ronaldo return is the same. I think people are getting really excited about it. It's a bit of a nostalgia trip, and obviously these nostalgia trips don't always turn out to be how you think they might be. Don't go back, they say, and this has been a long time for Ronaldo. 12 years since he last played for United. A lot has happened in the years since. But if you can do what Cantona did and score, then everyone will be happy. And obviously, when United played Liverpool, they drew that day, so Cantona didn't inspire a winning return. But I think United will win on Saturday against Newcastle, and Ronaldo will have a part to play.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.